Hi guys, today we're going to be looking at lesson 3.6 from our textbook, which is solving equations in slope-intercept form. Like I had mentioned to you guys in class, we had said that there is one more kind of equation that we were going to look at. We've already seen where it's y equals mx form. Now we're going to see it in y equals mx plus b form. So, if you notice in this first example, they say slope-intercept form. It's important for you to understand what that means because later on they might say, write this equation in slope-intercept form. If you don't know what that means, then there's no way you can answer the question. So, slope-intercept form, if you take a look up here, consists of y equals m, which is your slope, x plus b. And I want you to go ahead and label, just like they did there with the numbers, m is my slope, and b is my y-intercept. I know we've already talked about slope. We already know how it's represented graphically and on a table. Let's talk about y-intercept. That's the new concept here. Y-intercept is where in our graph it crosses the y-axis. So on the y-axis, wherever the line is crossing, at that point, we call that the y-intercept. So let's take a look at this first example. They say write an equation in slope-intercept form with a slope of -3 and a y-intercept of -4. So really, all we need to do is plug it in. We know that the format is y equals mx plus b, where m is my slope and b is my y-intercept. So I'm going to get the numbers that they gave me and plug them into my equation. The slope, they said, is -3 and the y-intercept is -4. Therefore, my final equation is y equals -3x plus b, which is what they also had, plus b now, -4, because my y-intercept is -4. If it had been plus or a positive, for example, +5, it would have been +5. In this case, since it's -4, it's a -4, it's -4. So this is my equation. So far pretty simple, right? Let's go ahead and take a look now from a table. We've already learned that to find the slope from a table, we find the changes in my y and divide it by my changes in my x. So what they want us to do is use this table and write an equation in slope-intercept form. So they did the changes in y was +4, +4, +4. Changes in x was +2, +2, +2. So if I'm doing my slope, I'm going to do my change in y, which is 4, over my change in x, which is 2. So 4 over 2 can be simplified to 2 over 1. So far, nothing new. We have the slope just like we've been seeing. So now, what am I going to do? I have right now my m, which is 2 over 1, which we can simplify to be just 2. So we're going to go ahead and just write it as 2x. What I don't know is my y-intercept. So we've already said that the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. Okay? On a table, where we find that point is where the x is 0. So write that as a side note to yourself. The y-intercept is where the x is equal to 0. On a table, also on a graph, which we're going to see in the next example. So I look at my table and I see it. When x is 0, my y is 5. So this is my y-intercept, 5, +5. So I can now replace my b with my actual number, which is a +5. And I'm done. I have my equation. Let's go ahead and take a look now at example 3. In example 3, we're now looking at a graph. So from a graph, it's really easy to find the y-intercept because you just need to find where it crosses the y-axis. So I zoom in and I see that right here at approximately, let's see, if I counted, I'd be at 1, 2, 3, so at 4 exactly is the y-intercept. Now it's +4. If it had been down here at -2, for example, it would have been negative 2, so it would be minus 2 when we plugged it into our formula. So right now it's plus 4 because that's my y-intercept. And let's find our slope like we've learned so far. Change in y over change in x. So my change in my y is 1 down, going 1 down, and then 2 to the right. So that tells me that's negative 1 or positive 2. So I have my slope, negative 1/2, and I have my y-intercept. I'm ready to write my equation. Y equals mx plus b is the format. Let's plug it in. Instead of m, let's replace it with our slope. Our slope is negative 1/2. Instead of b, we're going to plug in what we found, which is it's crossing at positive 4. So it's going to be plus 4, and I now have my equation. We're going to do the got it's. I want you to try them on your own and then see if you can find the equation. So put pause and come back and see once you're ready with your answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at part A. In part A, the equation was y equals 3/4 x minus 3 because your slope is 3/4 and the y-intercept is negative 3. So pretty straightforward. If you look at part B, we had to find the changes in my y's and then the changes in my x and then divide like we had been doing before. So change in y over change of x gives me negative 2 over 1. That is my my slope. And I look in my table to see where x is 0 because I know that in order for it to cross the y-axis, my x has to be 0. So I see that it is 8. So I plug it in. Here's my slope, negative 2. Here's my y-intercept, positive 8. And so my final equation is y equals negative 2x plus 8. On the graph, I right away saw that it was crossing at negative 2, which is why I wrote that over there. And then I just counted, rise over run. It was going up 2 over 1. So my slope was 2 over 1. And so I plugged it in. Y equals my slope, which is 2x. And then my y-intercept is negative, so it's going to be minus 2. And those are my 3 equations. Let's take a look now at a word problem. In this word problem it says the student council is selling t-shirts during Spirit Week. It costs $20 for the design and $5 to print each shirt. The cost y to print x shirts is given by y equals 5x plus 20. They're giving me the equation this time. What they're asking is to go ahead and answer, determine the slope and y-intercept. So here is my slope is 5, my y-intercept is positive 20. From there, we're going to use that information to graph. The first thing that we're going to graph is going to be my y-intercept. Why? Because it's the easiest thing to graph. We know it's where it crosses the y-axis, so that's going to be my starting point. So what I do is I go over here to my graph, and I see that it's a positive 20, so I go to positive 20, and I make my first point, which is right there. From there, I can graph the rest of this line. Why? Because I already know the slope. It's going up 5 over 1, up 5 over 1, and I can do that to create more points. So if I do that, I go up 5 and then over 1, and I make my next point. So there it is. I go up 5 over 1 again, and I make another point. Oops, sorry, it's a little bit off. I make another point, and then I make another point, and another point, and another point, and in the end I end up with a straight line, which is my graph of the whole line. So I am done.